Hello and welcome to this brief YouTube video describing the peer review workshop taking place in Atlanta soon. My name is Robert Lee. I, along with the other faculty of workshop, look forward to discussing with each of you the importance of peer review and how to do it well. Here are my disclosures. The learning objectives for this very brief video are twofold. One, to define the peer review process, and secondly, to briefly describe the essential elements of a good review. This is a quote taken from a recent paper. The system of peer review is biased, unjust, unaccountable, incomplete, easily fixed, and this is fixed in the British sense of easily manipulated, often insulting, usually ignorant, occasionally foolish, and frequently wrong. Now you might guess that these are the words of a frustrated author, but in fact this is written by Richard Horton, the current editor of Lancet. This is a nice, concise definition of peer review given by Fiona Godley, the editor-in-chief of BMJ. Peer review is a system used by journal editors to inform their decisions about manuscript publications. As we consider peer review, it's important to remind ourselves that there are many stakeholders in the process. There's the publisher, the editor, the reviewer, the author, readers of the manuscript, and particularly as it relates to clinical journals, the patient. In my view, there are two goals of a review. The first, that Fiona Godley pointed out initially, is to assist the editor in deciding whether to publish the material or not. But there's a second component that's, in my view, as important. That is to assist the author to improve the paper. This slide outlines some general principles of peer review. I think it's very important to be timely. In this day and age, if you're invited to review a manuscript, it will likely come by email. Typically, there's a very short window to agree or disagree to review the paper, and increasingly you'll be asked to accomplish this task in a relatively short period of time, typically 2 to 3 weeks. If possible, and you're willing and able, then I encourage you to accept the invitation. But if you're simply too busy, then please decline. On average, a good review takes about 2 to 3 hours, and if you don't have the time, please admit that up front and decline the invitation. There's nothing more frustrating than to have a potential reviewer accept the task and then 2 to 3 weeks pass and they indicate, well, they simply don't have the time to do it. That's really not fair to the authors. It adds 2 to 3 weeks of delay in the process. The review should be done in a courteous manner. The language that you use in the review is very important. You should not use inflammatory, insulting language in reviews. It's simply unprofessional. To the extent that you can, be constructive. Again, remember that one of the goals of the review is to assist the author to improve the manuscript. It is very important to maintain the confidentiality of the peer review process. And finally, if you have a conflict of interest, then you should declare this up front and then leave it up to the editors potentially to decide whether you should proceed. This slide contains what I view as the essential elements of a good review. Every review, for the most part, should include all of these elements. They should address the importance of the research question. Have the authors convinced you that it is an important question to answer? The review should address the originality of the paper, and you should substantiate your comments. If you view the paper as not being original, then you should list examples of previous papers addressing the same issue. It is far more meaningful for an editor to look at a review that says this paper is not original, there are 27 papers published in the last 3 years addressing the same topic. That is much more helpful than just to say it's not original. Again, you should substantiate your claims. The review should address the strengths and the weaknesses of the design of the analysis. Importantly, the reviewer should comment on the writing style. Is it clear? Is it concise? Is it verbose? Is it unfocused? And if you make the claim, please provide specific examples of where it is not clear or where it is unfocused. It's important as well to make comments on whether the tables are appropriate or the figures understandable. There should be some statement about any concerns that you may have with regard to conflicts of interest or ethical concerns. If there are no concerns, then you should just state it right out that you have no concerns. Again, the comment should be constructive and substantiated. Most importantly, I think you should comment on the author's conclusion. This is the one mistake that I see most frequently in reviews. Many readers will only read the abstract, and the conclusions of the abstract really need to be supported by the data provided. And as a reviewer, you should specifically comment on whether, in fact, the author's conclusions are supported by the data. If the conclusions are too far-reaching, then you should indicate that. Don't be afraid to say, very politely, that the conclusions are not supported by the data provided. And then finally, you should recommend a decision to your editor. Should this paper be accepted? Should be some minor revisions, major revisions, or rejected outright. I will end with this slide from one of my heroes from the Silver Age of Latin literature, the Stoic philosopher Seneca, who encourages us to weight opinions and not to count them. As an editor, what I hope for is a meaningful, constructive, timely review. I would rather have 1 or 2 of those than 3 or 4 superficial, unhelpful reviews. And I encourage you to take the time necessary in the review process to provide constructive, courteous, timely reviews. In the long run, it will help the editor, it will help the author, and as you become an author going forward, it will help you as well. I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to meeting each of you in Atlanta in September.